Welcome to
Morning.
Men Hurt Too, a safe space where men get to share their truth, brought to you by hashtag Coffee with Tea. You guys know I'm extra super excited on Mondays because I get to have Man Convo Monday, where I get to interview a man who just simply comes on here to share his truth through his work, through his education, and most of all, through his truth. So today I'm excited to have Marc Thompson. He is a graduate of Fordham University, City Seminary, and Touro University Worldwide, where he received his MBA. Currently, he's the president of Dare to Dream Photography and director of business development at a college. He's married to Lisa and has two daughters, Brittany and Kyla. Welcome, Marc. Good morning.
Morning. Welcome, Trey. Thank you for having me today. Excited to
How
be with
are
you.
you? I'm glad. How
Fantastic.
are you?
Fantastic. Feeling
Good,
good
good.
today.
That's good. The last time we met, we were on a panel with a bunch of brothers talking about, the little boy inside and how to nurture him, and just talking about different traumas. So I love to ask this question to all of my men when we first come on, so people can really, really get to know you. Tell me a little bit about your blueprint. Tell me about your relationship with your mother and your relationship with your father.
I'm Marc Thompson. I was raised in the Bronx in Soundview houses. My relationship with my mom was a little rocky early on. And things got better. Mom, went to counseling and, I was able to forgive and we communicated better. Now our relationship is wonderful, but it was some rocky years. I would say the high school years were rocky.
Okay. What about
And
your dad?
my dad, my dad was he had schizophrenia. So my dad
Oh,
was away and, incarcerated for a couple of years. He took care of me financially because he was a veteran. So he made sure that we received money every month. He was 100% disabled.
oh,
So it was some periods where he really couldn't live with us, but he loved me. My dad definitely did love me. I know that for a
awesome.
fact. But my mom was the single parent mom. She raised 6 kids and 2 cousins. So
Oh,
she raised 8 of us on her own, growing up. And, she did a great job.
awesome, awesome. You said it was rocky for the parents who are listening, the mothers who are listening, who are single moms. I love to get some insight and some direction from men who live with a single mom. I was a single mom myself. I made some terrible, terrible mistakes. But had I had a platform where I could hear from some brothers to tell us how we can deal with that, what were some of your struggles with your mom, right? And what advice can you give to a single mom?
My challenge with my mom, she had a boyfriend who was pretty abusive. And, I know she was trying to do her best to take care of us and, be there for him emotionally, but he was tough, and it was periods where I said, hey, mom, you got to let that guy go. He's not really good for you. And mom just was madly in love.
Wow.
So it was periods where I felt like she wasn't emotionally available for myself. And she was putting him ahead of her. And, when you're a young kid, you see how he's treating her. You're like, hey, you could do better than this guy. So for me, it was like, it was a disconnect on her part. She wasn't realizing her value as a woman and how she could do better. And in retrospect, looking back, I see she needed somebody too, or everybody needs somebody. So
Mm.
for me, as a 14, 15-year-old teenager, I'm like, hey, leave that guy alone. We can do better without him. And mom just couldn't disconnect. So I had to make a point. I reached the point in my particular life where I said, let me move on. So
Wow.
I went and I lived with relatives. I went to high school, and mom would always check in with me with my relatives. She didn't call me directly. She was like, "How's he doing? Is he going to school? How's his grades? How's his health?" In secret,
Wow.
she did it in secret. So she was definitely. And then my cousin, who I was living with, her name was Tijuana. She said, "Marc, your mom came over and dropped off money for you. She told me not
Oh,
to tell you, but she was making sure you had all the things you needed." And then I went to live with my Aunt Naomi, and my mom did the same exact thing. She was stopping by, giving money to make sure I had all the things that I needed, such as food and, all those things. My mom loves me. She still loves
wow.
me. It was just that was a tough period, and that was rocky. So I would say to like single parent mothers raising their kids, be emotionally available for your kids, communicate with them, and also listen to their sentiments on how they're feeling. And I think that was the problem. Mom wasn't really sitting me down and having that serious talk, but she wanted what she wanted, and I wanted what I wanted. So I think, when you have kids and you're dating someone and you think about moving in with them, make sure that you're communicating with your kids on how that relationship is making them feel. Everybody wants their mother to be happy. We want our moms to be, happy with her boyfriend or whomever. But when we see mom not happy, we see mom crying, that makes us cry. So
Wow.
you want to really like communicate and make sure whomever you're with is showing you unconditional love, loving you like you're supposed to be loved. Because the challenge is you're sending a bad message that we should settle. Mom was sending me a message that I should settle by going with that person who was abusive. And that's not what we want to send our kids, because I wasn't
Right.
seeing him giving my mom his best, and as a young 14-year-old, 15-year-old, I wanted my mom to have the best. My brothers and I, we worked really hard, to make sure mom was happy. We brought her flowers, birthday.
Mm.
She went to college and, she raised 6 kids that were hers, plus 2 cousins, and got her degree. So
Wow.
she didn't make any excuses. She did homework with us. She made sure we went to the boys club. We went to Kips Bay Boys Club. I was in the boys choir of Harlem.
Wow.
She did all of those like wonderful things, but it was some things that were not so constructive to, our emotional well-being. And
Right.
then, like I was sharing with you, as time gradually progressed, I went to counseling as like a freshman, and I started making connections as to some of the challenges mom was having at that period, insecurity factors she was dealing with, not wanting to be alone, needing somebody to hug up on, in the middle of the night, and having someone to communicate with. I started making connections as to why during those seasons I was carrying like depression.
Right.
And I have to tell you, Trey, over time, looking at my mom's story and my story, I was able to go to mom and say, "Listen, mom, you made some bad mistakes when I was a kid, and I was holding that bitterness for many years. But
Right.
I want to tell you, I forgive you, mom. I know you were doing the best that you possibly could at that particular point in your journey." And Trey, I have to tell you, the relationship started healing. And I'll tell you, forgiveness is for you. You know,
Yes.
so, and it also benefits the person that you're actually forgiving. I know it's hard to forget some of the trauma that we went through, because mom was tough with the tongue.
Oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean? But
Yes.
she had a heavy load, raising 6 kids and 2 cousins, making sure we didn't go to prison, making sure we went to school, making sure that we had food and clothing. She shouldered all of that, like on her own. And then so she was dealing with a lot, going back to school to get a bachelor's degree. I mean, she was up doing homework 3 o'clock in the morning. And this may make you laugh, but some of those periods when she was going to college, she made big pots of spaghetti and meatballs, the giant pots. She made sure we had food. And she said, "I need the degree." But I have to tell you, in retrospect, the message she was sending to us was, you can't make excuses. If you want to be successful, you got to put the work in. You know,
Yes.
you have to put the work in. It's not where you come from. It's where you're going to end up. And
Wow.
we would get up and go to the kitchen and grab juice to see her studying. And
Mm.
now, education is important to myself. It's important to my wife. I have one daughter who's about to graduate from North Carolina A&T in a couple of months, and I
Awesome.
have one daughter transitioning from high school. She graduates high school June. She'll be going to college for 4 years. So education is important, and we saw that from mom. Seeing her studying and things like that.
Wow.
So, yep. So
I mean,
parents,
go ahead.
pay close attention to your actions because your kids are watching.
Oh, we could just end the show right there. Parents, pay close attention to your children because
Yes.
they're watching. We need to realize that, and also, like you said, we need to have grace and mercy on our parents because one day we're going to need that grace and mercy from our kids because we're never going to, nobody's ever going to be perfect. How did it, and I know you said your mom was in a relationship with an abusive boyfriend.
Yes.
How does that make, because I know there's some mothers out here right now who are in relationships with abusive boyfriends who have 14 to 15-year-old young men in the house. How did that make you feel that you could not protect her from this person? Because I want parents who are listening to understand that this has an effect when your son is watching you cry or watching this man talk you crazy or not treating you well. And he, as a young man, is not powerful enough to do anything about it. So how did that make you feel and how did it affect you?
It definitely caused like some bitterness on my part. It caused some depression. It demotivated me. Like, I was always self-motivated, but it sort of like demotivated me from being my best and doing my best.
Wow.
Like high school, I did okay, but I didn't use half of my potential in high school. But college, that's when things start really opening up. I started looking in the mirror and liking who I saw. You
Oh,
know, I mean, I never had problems with women in terms of dating and things like that. But feeling good about yourself, we could walk around with nice clothes and, look nice in the clothes, but feeling good. So that's what I want to tell the parents. You want to make sure that you're putting your kids in positions where they can win, where they can feel good about themselves. Because if they're going to hear you fighting with your husband or your boyfriend and, going through changes like that, beating on each other emotionally or physically, you're doing a disservice to them to make it difficult for them to really focus in school because they're going to be in school worried about you. I was in
wow.
class worried about, is my mom safe? Is she okay? And payday was tough. People think payday was great, but in my house, payday was tough because I know that could cause, like, my mother's boyfriend to act a little crazy. So I used to
Right.
dread paydays in my
Oh,
house,
wow.
as a little
Wow.
kid, because he always came home with a story. And but I tell you now, it has helped me so much more to try to like love my wife a little better. We're not perfect. We don't have the
Right.
perfect relationship, but we communicate effectively. We do everything in our power to make sure that we're emotionally available for our daughters. We're encouraging to them to live their dreams. We support their initiatives. Like one plays basketball. We travel to the AAU tournaments. We stay in the hotels. We watch her games. My big daughter, she's big on social media, so we've done everything in our power to support her. Just this journey with the two girls has been amazing. So parents, be emotionally available to your kids and listen to them.
Yes, these are just notes that you just went right on through it because I always want people to know that the way that we are parenting our kids is going to affect the way our children parent their children. Because we always have that thought in the back of our mind to see your mom be in an abusive relationship will make you with, and then you have to end up with two daughters. Like, oh no, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes, yes.
why did I have to have girls? But do you think God had let you see those things to equip you as a father?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not gonna be. I'll be honest with you. I wanted two sons, but you know what? I'm so thankful to the Lord that I have two daughters because they make you so sensitive to like other people, other women. I'm more sensitive, and I've learned to listen more. Like growing up, I used to talk fast and be the first one to talk and always have to be heard. But now I know how to sit back and listen and process. That's what
Wow.
I was asking my mom to do for me when I was younger. Listen to me and process what I'm saying, so we can really communicate. And it was challenges where that didn't happen. So now when my daughters talk to me, I try to just put some invisible tape on it and
Right.
I listen. Like I took my young daughter out yesterday. I was in a car. We went to grab some food, and I was listening to like what she had to say. And I said, "So if let me see if I understand you correctly. To give her to let her know I am listening to you. I am all ears. And when we
Right.
do that for our kids, they feel important. They feel like what they have to say is important to you, and it should be important to the world, right? As opposed to them not being heard.
Right. Because when we don't, and I've noticed this about men in general, because I have three sons. And, of
Okay.
course, I wanted a daughter, but God gives us what he thinks we should hear. And I'm like, well, God, why'd you give me three boys? But anyway, we just have to realize, we, children need to be heard so they don't feel invisible. So a lot of the men that I've talked to, a lot of men that I've dealt with, I'm not just talking about romantically, I'm talking about cousins and friends who had parents who did not listen to them, kind of sort of took their voice away. So they would rather avoid confrontation. They would
Yeah.
rather avoid communicating because their voice was taken away so young. Like, not listening to a person makes them think you don't matter. So
Yes.
just most people go to the spot of, I just won't say anything. What would you say? What would you say your younger self needed?
Um, I really needed to be listened to. I needed to know that I was heard. Like mom, was there. She listened, but she wasn't really listening, right?
Right,
And when we really listen to people's particular needs and they tell us what we want, what they need, guess what we do? We take action, right? We try
right.
to activate those things so they can come into fruition, and that wasn't happening, right? So in my particular daughter's case, my big daughter, in fact, she said to me, Dad, for my birthday, her birthday was yesterday, but she told me last week what she wanted. So I followed up with her like 3 days ago. I said, hey, I sent you the money on, Cash App. I sent you everything that you needed. I knew you were having like your birthday party. She said, Dad, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Then she said, Dad, um, you, for my graduation, I want to go on the trip. So I told her,
Right.
hey, I followed up with her yesterday, and I said to her, I said, listen, did you do the research of what the cost is going to be for that trip to Jamaica? So she was like, yes, Dad, I'll get back to you. I saw the numbers, but I'm confident that the price is going down. So that's what I mean by let's listen intently, and not only listen, but let's take some action once the person tells you what they need. And that, guess
Well,
what? That increases the confidence level of our kids. That makes them feel valued. That makes them feel loved, right? And even if you
yeah.
can't do exactly what they're asking you to do, communicate that to them. Say, hey, I can't do that right now, but guess what? On such and such time, I'll be ready to do exactly what you asked me for. But just don't let it flow in the darkness and not answer them, right? Because then we go through life and we say people can communicate with us and not answer us. Who am I
Right,
to be answered, right?
right.
But when they see their parents listening to them and taking action and saying to them, you're important enough to me for me to execute on these things that you asked me for. And if I can't, I'm gonna tell you why. And or when can I actually do those particular things? It raises the self-esteem of our kids. It helps them in school. It helps them with good relationships with other people. And guess what? They go into relationships where they're healthy. And guess what? Even if the
Yes,
relationships they go into are not healthy, they know the difference, right? Because they experienced it in their households, as opposed to
yes,
being in traumatic, toxic relationships, right? Where your spouse wasn't, emotionally available for you. It was a lot of challenges there. And we go through life just settling, right? God doesn't want
yep,
us to settle. He wants us to be happy. He wants us to
yes,
enjoy life, and
yes,
suck from it all the good that we possibly can suck from it, right? So that's what
yes,
I am now. I'm loving life. I'm enjoying myself. I'm appreciative of who I'm becoming because I'm evolving. I'm not there yet. But
hmm,
I love me. I love myself. I
yes.
like what I see when I look in the mirror. And
Oh, that is awesome.
that's
I
how it
love
should
this.
be.
I love this conversation, and I love it that you're sharing and you have two daughters. Because I know there are a lot of men that don't know how to connect with their daughters because of the traumas of their childhood, right? So we have to make sure that so many of us, like you said, my children see a healthy relationship in a home, so they don't think dysfunction is normal. And when they see toxicity and they see a person that's not healthy, they know to get away from that,
Yes.
because we're trying to figure out why we stay in toxic relationships, or why we teach our daughters to be healthy in relationships, but we don't teach them when it's time to leave. So this is so important. What's one thing you would say to fathers who are actually raising daughters? Because we out here, the women, I'm just saying this, we out here, we lost some of us, because my dad, my mom was a single mom. I had my stepfather, and then I had my biological dad, who's still here, and God bless him, he turned 80 years old last week. But we didn't have a relationship, so I had to figure some things out on my own. What would you say to the fathers right now who have really young daughters? What is the most important thing they should be doing? Because a lot of men, when they're not in the house with their children, or even when they're in the house with their children, there's a disconnect because they haven't been taught to emotionally connect. Give them some words of advice.
I would definitely say take advantage of your community. You don't have to have all of the answers, but utilize the wisdom and the knowledge of your community. That could be people within the church. That could be the Girl Scouts, parents in the Girl Scouts. I would say listen to parents that are effective. Develop some relationships with men, women who are parenting kids, and listen to that particular community on what's working and see how it's working in their particular lives and get advice. And I think the challenge for us is we isolate ourselves, right? When we can utilize the community to our benefit, to gain
Wow.
wisdom, to get encouragement and insight, right? To different things that can make us more effective as parents. And I say to that parent, that dad that's raising kids, let's say the relationship may not be there with the mother. For the betterment of the kid, communicate with the mom if you can. You want to do things that's going to help that kid evolve and become a, a healthy person.
Yes.
So, take away all the bad things that you would want to say, if the relationship didn't go where you want it to go. Focus on the kids. Focus on providing for those kids, being a provider, financially, being a provider for them, emotionally, being a support system, showing up for them.
Showing up.
I take my two daughters out a lot of times separately. Like I'll take one to the next game so she can have my undivided attention and we can eat, have fun. Then I'll take my big daughter someplace and so she can have that one-on-one time with dad. We all get together and we do family things, but I find it more beneficial for them as well as myself when we do separate things sometimes with the two girls. And also let the parent, if the mom is living with you, dad, I say utilize her wisdom. Take advantage of like the insight that she could bring to the relationship, the family dynamic. Take advantage of, the connection that she has with your kids that may be a little different than yours. Like my daughters connect way better with my wife Lisa than they do. And I understand that.
Right.
Like when they need something, dad, I need this. But in
Yes.
terms of like talking about the nitty gritty, talking, they talk with mom. And I
Wow.
understand that and I respect that. And dad, you just gotta understand that that's the way it is sometimes.
Right.
Maybe if mom is not around, dad, it may be an auntie, it may be a cousin. You let your kids connect with whomever they connect with. That's gonna give them good advice, good wisdom. That's gonna help them make good choices in their life. It may be in my church is this woman named Mavis Young. She's super smart and she loves my kids. She loves all the kids in the church and she gives them good advice.
Right.
We have Minister Cherie. She, when they was younger, she gave them good advice and she coached them in the right direction. Now we have at my church Minister Chastity Reeves. They call upon her a lot and they talk to her. So that's what I mean by utilize your community.
Unity,
You know,
yeah.
the family dynamic is awesome, but when you have a community there that can also help your kids become productive citizens in society and be well grounded and healthy individuals, use it to your benefit.
Yes,
Don't isolate.
as
Yep.
my girl Kirsten Tonic would say, the village. It takes
Yes.
the village. Let the village in. The village don't know if you need help if you don't ask for help. So let's talk about young men because I love to talk to men because I try to figure out, I try to figure out my sons. Of course I can because I was never a young boy. So what should we be actually looking for in our young men to possibly know that they have a struggle going on? Like when you were growing up, do you wish that somebody noticed that there was a struggle at home? Because we have our young boys who are out right now who are experiencing things in the home. Like for girls, we're emotional, so we'll come to school and we'll be crying or whatever, and we'll get the help that we need, or somebody will pay attention. What is it that we should be looking for in our young men that might give us the trigger of maybe something over there is not right?
Um, I think it's really important to put our kids in position where they can win. And what I mean by that, connect your kids with some male group organizations. It could be sports. It could be a media arts team. Find out what interests them the most and connect them with those organizations where they're going to get the opportunity to work on their team building skills, right?
Right,
Opportunity to work on their communication skills, right? Opportunity to be mentored by someone else, right, in the community that um, can connect with them, and I think that's the biggest challenge for some of our boys. And guess what? That's why we have so much gang violence in our community because our young boys are really looking to connect with someone,
right.
someone that's going to make them feel good about themselves and give them the opportunity to communicate and be a part of something. And I think sometimes when we just isolate our kids and not connect them with associations, it's tough for them to feel like, important or
Right.
valuable. But when, for me, I played basketball in the community. That made me feel good about myself, that I could dribble, that I could shoot, and I was coming down court, passing the ball to Chris Tate and passing the ball to Timothy Frazier. And we were winning and traveling throughout like the Bronx community. I felt good. So,
Right.
and I felt like I could communicate with those guys and share. But I think when we keep our kids home on Saturdays and we don't really take them out to the Kips Bay Boys Club organizations or take them to the media arts places or take them out to play baseball, guess what? They're isolated. They don't know anything but just staying home and Netflixing it. There's a little more to life than Netflixing it,
Right. Yes, that
But
was so good.
let them get out into the community and evolve and grow and do things different. And something else I think too, community support. Like in my house, my mom stressed the importance of helping your community. My mom
Right.
is a community activist. She supported a lot of like senators. She supported Nan. She worked with Nan and Props. She was
Right.
always supporting like organizations. So for me, support my community, doing a fundraiser to help your community, a fundraiser to help your block, a fundraiser to help your church. Do something like that. Let your kids lead from the front. Guess what
Right.
that builds up? That builds up leadership skills. That builds up organizational skills, right? Communication skills. And I think that's what we need to be doing if we really want to build up this village.
That's
Let's
good.
put our kids to work and stress the importance of helping others versus being selfish and only helping ourselves. My daughters have been active in the Girl Scouts since they were like 4, you know,
Wow.
selling Girl Scout cookies, supporting like the Bronx Borough president, Ruben Diaz, my big daughter, Brittany. She was leaving the house when she was like 13, marching with the Ruben Diaz in the
Wow.
parade with the Girl Scouts, doing different things to help, women in distress, supporting initiatives like that, helping shelters. So we're big on really supporting our community in our house. And my big daughter, Brittany, just put in 120 hours of community service. She just
Wow.
gave back, she just gave out she supported Cherry's kids, and she gave out 150 coats in Harlem a couple of
Wow.
months ago. So she just did a fundraiser to help like one of the shelters in Brooklyn. So that's what I mean. Guess what? That build up her organizational skills, that build up her communication skills, that increased her leadership ability. And guess what? It also let her know I could win.
Yes.
I put the work in, right?
Yes.
So guess what? When our kids transition from college to the workplace, they've already done it. So they have experiences of success where they achieved and they did phenomenal work. So that's what I mean, Dad. Let's get the kids out there in the community, put them to work. You know,
Yes. This is good.
next, yep.
This is good stuff. Cause listen, I wish I had these, I wish I could hear these resources now from you, from men and from just different things from raising my boys, because they weren't into sports. So I didn't really force them. Not that I needed to force them, but maybe I could encourage them more. But I was someplace in my own mind too back then. But I need people to understand how important it is that maybe we don't need to see anything in our boys to notice that something is wrong at home, because we all experience something, but to include them, to make them inclusive in all things, to take them out to different places. We don't have to figure out if something is wrong if we're putting them in spaces where they can be on a team, where they can thrive, where they don't feel left out. Then maybe they
Hmm.
will begin to communicate with somebody that, this is really helping me because at home this is going on. So this gives me an outlet. So we really have to give our kids outlets. How
Yes.
do you how did you decide? Like, because you said one, your mom was in an emotional and abusive relationship. Then you said your dad was schizophrenic. Like, that's
Yes.
a lot in life to just be able to say, well, I didn't succeed because look what happened to me. My father was this and my mother did that. How did you decide that the obstacles would not be an excuse for you?
Um, for me, I've always been really focused, and I've always processed and analyzed things from different angles. So, I said either you go or you don't go. My mom's situation doesn't necessarily have to be my situation if I make different choices. And I was smart. Um, you know, I had a lot of good things going for me. I was always in good programs in school. Like I went to PS 180. I went to Booker T. Washington. I was in the honors program. Then I went to high school. Then Fordham. So I had a lot of good things working in my particular favor. I loved writing poetry. So that's how I was able to deal with a lot of things that I was going through. I would always put it on a piece of paper and try to make sense out of it. And, you know, writing helped me, was my strength. It made me feel good about myself. And that really helped me out a lot.
Who came along that encouraged you, inspired you, motivated, like an outside source? I have mentors and I have my coach now. But back then, that language wasn't really out there for us as Black people, like mentor, life coach. We didn't really know these words. So who came along in your life and made you think like, aha, I could do this?
It was two people. This may make you smile. Mom used to read Essence magazine. So one of my heroes to this very day is Suzanne Taylor. In her poetry section, I used to read it all the time. And I used to read that trade. It used to inspire me. And I got the chance to meet her at Fordham. She was my guest speaker one year. And I wrote a poem for her called Diamonds Are for the Strong. And
Wow.
she read my poem in front of the whole group. And that was like huge for me. She did a phenomenal job as my guest speaker. I was the president of the Malimo organization at Fordham. It was a group we had. And it was also a gentleman in my housing complex. His name was Trenton Tate. Trenton lived on the third floor. I lived on the second. But Trenton was older. He went to college. And I said, I want to be like him when I get big. So he would come home. His diction was different. He would dress up. He had his little blazer on. He had his little shirt, and I saw, Trent winning. So,
Yeah.
and I got the chance to see him a couple of years, and I said, I want to tell you, you inspired me, like growing up as a kid. You helped me see that, my reality could be different. Like I could do greater things for myself. And he looked at me, he smiled, and I said, hey, I just want to thank you for leading the way for me. And like I said to you about the village, that was my village.
Yes.
Suzanne Taylor from a distance, and then in person when she came to Fordham, and Trent Tate. He was like, he lived in the same housing complex as me, and then I saw him just blossom, and I learned from those particular experiences. If you put the work in, you could do great things. You could do phenomenal things. Be humble. Don't think you know it all. Be given to your community. Serve. And
Yes.
like in my relationship with my wife, we try to outserve each other.
Hmm.
It's nothing. I'm not saying it's perfect, but trying to outserve each other. We have our
Ooh.
little ups and downs, but that's my truth right there. And sometimes when things not going good, we sometimes look outside, but I've been looking in. I've been staying focused. I want my daughters to see somebody who loves their mom.
Wow.
And I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't have all the answers, but like I told you, I'm still growing. I'm still evolving. I come home every night.
Yes.
I'm working hard to try to do what I have to do to take care of my family. Sometimes doing extras to try to get it done, especially with the pandemic. Photography jobs were low,
Right.
But do different things to make sure things were happening in the household. And I did that. Didn't make no excuses.
That's what I'm talking about. Ladies, did y'all hear that? And men, I need y'all to hear what he said. He said, me and my wife try to outserve each other. Listen, God, I'm gonna need a man that's gonna try to outserve me, because I hadn't heard that it's possible just now. That just blew me away, but I love that
Yes.
so much. Listen, you said a whole lot of good stuff just now. I am just so happy that you are here, because this has been like just an encouraging moment of everything in life ain't negative. Black men ain't negative, and I'm saying ain't because that's who I am. Black men in life ain't negative. This man right here came from some circumstances and some situations. If you just tuned in, you tuned into Men Hurt Too, a series where men get to share their truth. And we're here with Mr. Marc Thompson, who came from some adversity, who came from some things that should have destroyed him. But he made a conscious decision to say that my mother's life is not my life, and my father's life is not my life, and that I can excel if I do the work. I like another thing that you just said. You said you had two mentors that didn't even know they were mentoring you. So I want every person out here to know somebody is watching you. Right now, somebody is watching Mark. Right now, somebody is watching Trey. Right now, somebody is watching each and every one of us get up in the morning and go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning, get in our car and come home carrying groceries. You don't know who in the neighborhood is looking and saying, that lady right there get up every morning and go to work. I could do this. So we have to be really mindful of the brother on the third floor and Susan Taylor from Essence Magazine, that from a distance, you inspired this man to be great, to graduate from college with little or no help. And like I said, we are not bashing your mother or your father, but they were going through some struggles and it did not stop you. I'm so proud of you. So when we talked a little bit, you said men need support and encouragement from the people that they love too. Go a little bit into that.
We need encouragement from, our wives. We go through different stresses as well. You got goals you have to hit at work, right? You got different things you have to, achieve at the job to keep the job. You got different things like, I'm a minister within my church. So little things you're trying to do to support your church. We just need encouragement too. Like, hey, I'm proud of you. Words like, I'm proud of you. I really appreciate what you're doing for me. I'll give you the jacket off my back. For me, I don't really need a bunch of gifts, but just speak encouragement into my spirit. Like just say, hey, I get you. I see you. I appreciate you. And I think if our women do that, it helps our men so much more. Just like you want us to bring you some roses, bring me a rose sometime. Give me a little card out of the clear blue. say, hey, Mark, I appreciate you. Thank you for paying this mortgage payment.
I
Thank
know
you.
that's right.
Thank you, for going shopping and getting the groceries. I know that's my responsibility, but let us know you appreciate us. You get so much more from us. Like if I take you out to dinner, take me out to dinner sometime too. You know
I
what I
know that's
mean?
right.
So
Yes.
just let your men know they're appreciated. You get so much more from us. Let us know you see us. That's what I'm basically saying. I see you. I appreciate you. I'm here for you. And I think a lot of times when you have relationships where you have extramarital situations, that's the missing element. That brother
Right.
is not feeling appreciated, and he just made a turn to go south when all you had to do was open the communication lines and say, hey, what don't you appreciate about our relationship? What could I do to fix it?
Right.
I've been married 19 years, and I have to tell you, it hasn't
Woo!
always been rock perfect. But where we are now, we're communicating. Like, hey, I appreciate you, or I think if you did this, I would appreciate that. Like a couple of months ago, my wife's tone was not so good, and I said, hey, that tone wasn't so good. It made me feel a certain kind of way. But guess what? It alerted her that, hey, maybe my tone wasn't so good. And it made him feel, a certain way. But guess what happened, Trey? If we're not communicating that in our relationships, it can go south. And I think a lot of marriages would be together today if people worked on it, if they communicated instead of jumping ship and said, hey, I'm out of here, you know?
Right.
So that's something that I'm learning in my relationship. We got to communicate. If something is out of line, let's talk about it. Let's go, and sometimes go outside the house, go to a restaurant
Right.
and talk and say, hey, what could I do to make things better? How am I impacting you in making you feel uncomfortable with this relationship? What could I do to make it better? And then put some invisible tape on it, men, and let her talk. And I always go with my pen so I could write it down because it's important to me, right?
Right.
And I think this will lead to more successful relationships. I have an uncle. His name is Marvin. He just celebrated 50 years of marriage.
Woo!
50 years of marriage. And I said, I want to be like that, But
Right.
it takes work. It takes work.
Right.
So
Right.
that's my truth. That's my truth.
I
Yep.
love this. Listen, we have to support. Let's be encouraging, ladies. A lot of times we think that men know because you're supposed to do that. That's you're a provider, you're a protector, you're supposed to do that. Ladies, if your man is doing stuff for you, it doesn't cost a dime to say, good job, thank you so much. Thank you, like you said. I'm so glad that the bills are all caught up because a lot of women we sit and we talk to each other, Mark, and a lot of us are having struggles within our houses. So for the woman, when you're talking with your girls and you hear these things, when you get home, say, I'm so glad that we're not struggling in that area because it's a lot. It's a lot going on. And you said one thing too. When you guys are not getting the encouragement and the support that you need, that's when those cracks come in the door for the outside relationships. Even if they're not
Yes.
sexual, they, you go out and talk. And listen, people, before y'all go inboxing me, y'all know I got the whole hashtag no side chicken movement. We are not saying that that's a good that's it's okay. He went out because we're saying these are the things that leave cracks in the doors. So
Yes.
you talk a lot about communication. What is the biggest thing that you've learned on your journey from boyhood to manhood about communication?
Um, it's very important. And be honest and sincere. Like when you communicate, don't sugarcoat it. But if you really want any relationship to work, it has to be some communication lines there. It has to be. It could be relationship with your son. It could be a relationship with your boss. It could be a relationship with your pastor. If you want the relationship to work, you got to communicate. You got to open up. You got to be sincere and honest, right, about your truth. And sometimes I think even when we do communicate, we're not real. You're not going to
Right.
really get much if your communication is not real. If you're
Oh,
hurting and you're going to sit there and go, "Oh, I'm fine," that's not real. You're not going to really get to no solutions. You're not going to get to a healthy relationship. When I sat down with my mom years ago and we had that talk and I said, "I forgive you," I meant it. I
right.
forgive you, you know? And mom said, "Thank you." And she was able to forgive herself. And
Oh,
guess what? Our relationship is good. She knows how I was feeling. I know how she's feeling, and our relationship is healthy. We communicate. We have a good balance in our relationship. I support her. She supports me. And guess what? My kids see that,
yes.
right? So we got to be mindful. Some of the things we do with our parents, our kids are watching our every move.
Yep.
And another thing we do that's not so good when we communicate, we tear people down. Let's be adults. Like when I was a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. So let's put the childish things away. That's the main difference between the adult Mark and the teenage Mark. I was a child and I thought like a child, but now I'm a man. I don't got time for that.
Oh,
You know, I want to, grow. I want to evolve. I want to be happy, more importantly.
yes. And
That's it.
Dr. Phil said something a long time ago that, I'm not really that big of a Dr. Phil fan, but he said this one thing.
Yeah.
He said, you want to be right or you want to be happy? Because people be
Yes.
arguing to be right, or pick your battles, basically what he said. He said, you want to be
Yes.
right or you want to be happy? So tell me what, in any instance, I'm not just talking, a lot of people are talking about relationships, men and women, intimate relationships. I'm talking about with men, period, in communication. What shuts a man down from communicating?
What shuts us down is for me yelling. If you scream at me, that shuts me down immediately. When you're on the attack, that shuts me down immediately. When you're pointing the finger, you, that shuts me down immediately. Give me respect, because I'm gonna do everything in my power to give you respect. You know, give me my time to speak. I'm gonna give you your time to speak. And I think sometimes we have this sisterhood thing. I'm gonna tell him, and sometimes we don't have to really listen to what Shaquika girl said. You know what I mean? Shaquika girl is not gonna pay your bills. Shaquika girls is not gonna pay your car note. You know what I mean? So sometimes you got to separate what Shaquika girl said and have your truth with your mate. You know what I mean? And say, listen, this is about me and you, one on one. I want us to grow. Me and you, we here. And have that real talk. Like, and don't sugarcoat it. Because Shaquika girl is single,
Oh,
right? 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 So I'm not saying that to be bad,
no,
but
you're right.
when you in a relationship and you want it to grow and evolve, if it can, put the work in. I mean, be objective. Like when you approach your mate, your husband or your boyfriend, be objective. That's all we ask. Just be objective and fair. Don't be
Yes.
on the attack. Don't communicate your truth and then not let me communicate mine. And don't let me sit here and listen to you thoroughly, but then when I'm speaking, you're thinking about what you want to say.
Oh,
And I think sometimes that happens. And guess what? We get to know solutions in the relationship. We get to know healthy balance in the relationship. And next thing you know, we're in divorce court.
wow.
It's about me and you. That's the talks that my wife and I have had. We've gone through some struggles, some ups and some downs. It wasn't always great, but when we talk now, and my wife is strong-willed, strong-willed. Strong-willed. She's smart. She's articulate. She's a critical thinker. So that's it. That's where we are now, and we're growing. We're growing every day. I see us growing, and we're respecting each other more, and we're in a happy place.
I love that you said my wife is strong because some women probably listening right now are like, oh, he probably got a wife that's a pushover. She goes
Uh-uh.
for anything here.
She has a leadership role at work. She's working on like a third degree. You know, she has like, you know, she's doing some good stuff. She's used to like taking charge, and that was the problem with us. Sometimes she would want to take charge, and I'm like, hold up, you know, let's back it up a little bit. We here together. Let me lead. You know what I mean? But now
Right.
we have a healthy balance, but we're still growing. Both of us are growing.
I love this. This
Yeah.
was an awesome conversation. So we have
Thank you.
9 minutes left. I want you to give you the opportunity of first a final word, something that is important for you to let everybody, just something that a nugget that you think like this will really help the men out and the women listening for me helping the men out. And then I want you to tell everybody where they can find you about your services and all those
Yes.
different things. But what's that final thought that you really want everybody to know?
Um, just when you look in the mirror, know that you're human. That's the most important thing. Sometimes we think we got to be perfect. Sometimes we think we got to have all the answers. Sometimes we beat ourselves up, you know, we fall short when we fail, when we don't come up big, when we don't make that 3-point jump shot to win the game. I've my truth is when I look in the mirror, I be like, I'm human, you know? And being human, it's going to be some periods along my journey where I'm not going to come up big. And I have to just deal with that reality and hit the jump shot the next day. That's where I'm at in my life right now. I'm not trying to be nobody else. I'm trying to be Marc Thompson. You know, I'm trying to be me. I'm not comparing myself to nobody else. And I'm not letting nobody else put me in a box where they're going to compare me to nobody else. And that's my truth. You know, I'm happy with me. And like I told you at the beginning of the interview, I'm evolving. I'm becoming that person that God want me to be every
Yeah.
day. And I'm, you know, willing to put in the work and do that. But
Awesome.
yeah,
You
but
are an awesome brother. Listen, I gotta tell, I gotta tell y'all, y'all are some awesome brothers who have done the work and who are continuing to do the work to be better men. There's a lot going on right now on media about men. You know, black men ain't this and black men ain't that. I think you're number 39 who I interviewed in a year. And
wow.
I have really met some awesome, awesome brothers who have shared their truth. And I'm like, wow, these are black men that don't get highlighted on social media because you know social media is really the new news. Who
Yes.
don't get highlighted on social media, who don't get highlighted on news channels. I just want to say I am refreshed and I appreciate your truth and your guidance and your wisdom. And more
Yes.
than that, I just
Thank you.
really appreciate everything that you said today. So let's tell our listeners where they can find you and what services you have.
Great. Thank you for having me also. You can find me at I Dare You to Dream on IG. You can find me on Marc Thompson MBA, Director of Business Development on LinkedIn. Um, yep, I offer like photography services, videography services, and I've done like at least 22 weddings, anniversaries. It was a little slow during the pandemic, but things are starting to really pick up for me in regards to the photography work. But I travel, I do destination events, and yep,
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If this is your first time you're tuned into Men Hurt Too, brought to you by hashtag Coffee with Tea. Men Hurt Too is a series where I bring men on who come and just share their truth and enlighten us on what it is to be a man. Because who better than to find out what a man is than a black man? So
yes,
I started this series because I just wanted us to understand the mind of a black man and what our men need, how we can support, how we can allow them to lead without interruption and love and respect. So I thank you guys for tuning in. Remember what
thank
I tell you at the end of all my broadcasts. You deserve the best. Yes, I'm talking to you. You deserve the best. Now go get it. Peace and blessings. And remember Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Peace and blessings. I will see you next time.